Next, let's create a data science project and set up a data connection in there so we can run pipelines. We'll call this my first ML pipeline project. And you can see we have to configure workbenches, cluster storage, data connection, and then we can create a pipeline server to execute pipelines. So let's create workbench. We'll name this my workbench. I'm on a pretty small test cluster here, so I'm going to use the smallest image that I can. And we'll configure a data connection. I have a pre-configured S3 bucket in AWS that I'll point to. Next, we'll create a pipeline server. And I'll use the existing data connection that I just set up. We'll use the built-in database, but you can configure to point to an external database if that's a requirement. Okay, our pipeline server is up. If we look over in the terminal here, we can see that the components for the pipeline server came up. It's actually fairly normal for the API server pod to restart a couple times as it's coming up, waiting for its dependencies, but the pipeline server is up and listening for API connections to run pipelines. Now, because I pointed the kfdef back in the beginning to the DSPO Git repos main branch, this demo Flipcoin pipeline is already preloaded, but if it wasn't, it's fairly easy to load that in there. I'll demo that loading in a second pipeline towards the end of the demo. But for now, we'll just take advantage of the fact that this pipeline exists. As you can see, there's a graphical graph type pipeline viewer, very similar to what Upstream shows. You can see the Tecton pipeline run definition in the YAML if you are so interested. If we click over on actions, we can see we can create runs, we can view runs, we can delete the pipeline definition. Here's the import button. Same menu options over on the hamburger menu there. And we can do different filtering. Let's create a run. And we'll call that run 1. Run it immediately after creating the run. You can also do a recurring run. I'm not going to demo that. And you can see the state of my run just turned from waiting to running. You can see there's a little icon here that shows a little spinny to demonstrate that it's running. You can see the YAML output down below, some statistics, stop run, clone run, delete. You can see the first step was successful, and now we're running the second steps. You can also see the pods actually executing in the my first ML pipeline project namespace. And the pipeline completed, it went down this branch. You can click on each node and get some details. You cannot currently see the output of the pod logs for each of these actual pods running, but that is a feature that we're currently working on. You can see basic statistics for each node in the graph. none of these steps failed, but if they did, you would be able to see some failure details. And you can see the runs are nested underneath the top level definition of the pipeline. Last run is run 1. Let's do one more. And you can see each run listed, one's completed, one is running, data about their last run time and created time, and a pointer to the last run. And you can see it's still running. Again, we can see the pods. And our run is complete. If I go over to the runs option on the sidebar menu, I can see all of my runs that exist in my project. And there's various filters. So that gives you the basics of running an existing pipeline and looking at the runs, starting runs, and viewing their details.